Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Six Figure Stylist. It's been a moment. Yes, it's been a while since I came on here and did an episode because I was going through a bit of a pivot in my business. And I wanted to come on here and share that with you. This is by no means the first pivot in my business or change in my business. I've been in the business of personal styling for over 20 years and I've gone through many, many changes. I've gotten better at pivots, but they still can be messy. So if you are thinking about going through a pivot, or if you are right in the middle of a pivot, or if you haven't recovered after a pivot, this episode is for you and it will help you to get back to a place where you feel safe to be seen again. As I said, this is not my first rodeo, and it's possibly not your first rodeo in the area of pivoting either, because if you have become a personal stylist, you've already pivoted once. It could be that you came from a corporate environment like me and you moved into something that is more around personal styling. So if you are going through that pivot at the moment, this is exactly the place you need to be. And my first pivot really was moving out of a manufacturing environment and moving into personal styling. Possibly the biggest pivot of my life. It was so different from the environment that I was working with, where, I worked from 8 till 5 every day. I wore a uniform from head to toe. My hours were very much accounted for. It was a very regimented kind of role in manufacturing. And then I moved into personal styling where I had to, organize my own time, pay the rent on an office, get my own clients. You know what this is like. It was a huge pivot. And it took me a long time, possibly a couple of years, to get comfortable in that new role. And I'm going to talk about this in a little bit, but that change in identity is huge, and that can be very discombobulating. You get completely lose sight of who you are, and it takes a while to find yourself again. Okay, the next pivot was probably when I started training other personal stylists. So I started out as a personal stylist, and then I started training other personal stylists. And I did that for a number of years around the technical aspects of styling. So, the technical aspects of color analysis, the technical aspects of styling. And then my next little pivot was around helping personal stylists with strategy, more business related content, more business related strategies, how to scale their business, how to have sustainable businesses. So, in many ways, my business has moved with me. As I've pivoted and changed myself, as my requirements within my business have changed, I too have changed. And my most recent pivot, again, is very similar to the previous pivots, is around my own development, my own progression in my role as a business coach. So I found that I was giving a lot of my stylists the strategies. They were able to implement them initially, but then kind of ran out of steam, a bit like myself. I found that I knew the strategies, but I wasn't necessarily feeling enthusiastic to implement the strategies in my business because I was growing, I was developing, I wanted to be doing something new. And that's kind of my most recent pivot. I found that helping personal stylists feel more safe in the long term, feel more regulated, feel more like they're in control of their own businesses, feel like they have more self-trust in themselves and what they're doing, and less looking outward for permission, less looking outward for strategy, and more looking back inward with what actually works with me, what works with my personality, what allows me stay in this business for a very long time, and build a sustainable six-figure business. So, because it's not about getting to six figures once or seven figures once, it's about getting to six figures and being able to sustain that through changes in economy. You all are probably feeling it at the moment. There is a massive change in the economy. People are, feeling very unsafe to buy. So a lot of the buying that's going on, buying is still going on, but it's much, much quieter. It's much, much quieter. People are still investing in themselves, but they're investing differently. And I know you will have felt this in your business. So today I wanted to talk about 7 things I've learned along the way in this change in my business. And I'm hoping that this will get you back to a place where if you're going through a change in your business, you feel safer and you understand, oh, this process that I'm going through is quite common for everyone, and everyone feels a bit discombobulated when they're going through a change. It feels messy. Okay, let's get down to these 7 points that I have written down here in front of me. Number 1, a pivot often starts as discomfort, not inspiration. Lots of people kind of think, oh, maybe Aileen had a big vision and then she decided to follow this vision. No, 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 no. That is not oftentimes how pivots happen. We begin to realize that we don't really feel good. Things stop working. You find that maybe you're bored, or you find that you're not implementing the strategies that you used to before. Maybe the strategies that you implemented before are not really working for you anymore. And this discomfort, it can begin quietly, but it gets louder and louder to the point where it becomes so uncomfortable that you need to take a pivot. You probably know it's time. But once you start thinking about this change, guess what comes up? A lot of discomfort, a lot of fear that, oh my God, am I going to end up ruining everything that I've built up till now? In my case, I've spent 20 years building this business. Do I really want to disrupt things? I have programs that sell, I have strategies that work. Why would you pivot? But unfortunately, if you are learning and growing and you're developing, the call will come knocking, and it will keep knocking until you take some action. And that's really what happened for me. It was not a big vision. I just had this uncomfortable feeling that I needed to share more. I needed to share the work that I had been doing in the background that helped me with my personal stylist and coaching community. And it wouldn't stop knocking. I could continue to teach the strategies that I was teaching before. I could continue to teach the technical aspects, which all work and which I will still provide. But really, the big difference in the six-figure stylist who can sustain a business for a long time is really understanding what works for them personally and getting beyond the blocks and the dysregulation and the discomfort that they feel, so that they can implement the strategies for a longer period of time. So that was number 1. A pivot often starts as discomfort, not inspiration. So don't be scared if you're feeling discomfort. It is a sign that something new is probably coming in your business. Number 2, you can't think your way through a pivot. I've tried a lot. I have a very, very strong mind. I often go to the mind first. But clarity really only came when I slowed down. And you possibly have noticed that over the last few months. I stopped using some of the strategies I had been using previously because I didn't feel comfortable with them anymore. I had to give myself space to feel into the new thing. I spent a lot of time regulating my nervous system, and I let decisions, land over time. So that's probably the biggest piece of advice that I will give you, that you should slow down, stop pushing through. I am an emotional projector. I'm also a performer in my invisibility wounds archetype. My natural in my natural tendency is like to push through the comfort. And it was very, very uncomfortable for me to slow down and take the time. But I did that because I knew that that was what was required, and that has paid off. That has paid off in clarity. So once you slow down, stop doing the things that no longer work for you, and start regulating, so you can start trusting your intuition. You can start trusting that all of the answers for you are on the inside. They're not out there. What worked for another coach may not work for you. So I found a lot of the strategies that I was using for a long time, a lot of hustle, just weren't working for me anymore. They worked one time, but they're not really working for me anymore. So I had to kind of go back to and establish what are the things that don't feel like hustle, what are the things that feel more aligned, and start implementing those in my business instead. Number 3, emotional waves are part of the process, not a sign that you're doing something wrong. So if you go into states of, I should be doing this, maybe I should do this, but this is wrong and I don't know what I should be doing, this is perfectly normal. You will find your mind fighting with your mind. You will find some days you have great ideas and you want to implement them immediately. The next day you're not so sure. This is part and parcel of a pivot. One day you'll feel convinced, other days you'll be questioning everything. This is the emotional wave. And what you need to do is ride the emotional wave. Don't go out there and do crazy things. Okay, sometimes you still will. And sometimes I did as well, where I got that urge to just put something out there and then realized, oh no, the next day, that's not really what I want actually. If you slow down the process, if you understand that there's an emotional wave and wait it out, if you can wait it out, that is the key. That is the absolute key. Wait out the emotional wave. This is information. Everything that's coming up for you is information. And if you can, just hang in there, journal, do all the things that regulate you, eventually clarity will come true. So that was number 3. Number 4, letting go of old identities is harder than letting go of strategies. This is such a huge one. If you are pivoting in your business, you really have to move into a new identity that's different from your old identity. And it's the practical change that needs to happen in your business is the easy change, but that identity change is hard. It's difficult because you have grown comfortable I have grown comfortable as, the personal stylist that hustles, the personal stylist that shows up consistency, the personal stylist that always knows the thing to do. So in changing identity, which was a real slowdown for me, I found that difficult. If you are a performer, if you are an achiever, if you are a ruler in sacred money archetypes, I'm a big personality guru. I love all kinds of personality tests. I love knowing more about myself because the more I know about myself, the more I understand what's going on during a pivot like this. So with the performer personality type, with the achiever, we have an image that we're kind of successful. We're successful. And letting go of that image and slowing down and making a pivot can be really, really, really confronting because it doesn't feel comfortable. It feels like the opposite of what our personality is, or the image that we have out there. So when you're going through a pivot, you kind of have to be really, really aware of your ego and drop that. And that's difficult. It's really, really difficult. So that was number 4. Number 5, everything does not need to be new. Say it with me. Everything does not need to be new. When we're going through a pivot, we have this desire and think we need to start from scratch. We need to start everything from zero. We have a new ideal client. We have, to have a new website. We have to have a new image. We have to, all of the things. Now, while some of that is helpful in adopting the new identity, I urge you to pause and not burn down what you have already built. Don't burn down years and years of work. If you have built an email list, work that email list. If you have a perfectly good website, use that perfectly good website. You may need to change a few small things. You're definitely going to need to change your messaging maybe, but go slowly. Again, it's the exact same advice that I've been giving you on all the other points. Don't rush in and change everything on the same day. Go slowly. For me, definitely didn't need a new business. I'm still the 6-figure stylist. I was thinking about a community. I already have a community right here. I don't have to create a whole new community. I had strategies that I felt really good with, and that I will continue to use in my business. This particular turning up live on Facebook, turning it into a podcast, and also using it as a blog post works really, really well for me, and feels really, really comfortable. And I've been doing this for years. I will continue to do this in my business. So really remember that everything does not have to be new. And you're already going to be going through an identity shift. Keeping the things that can stay the same will be really regulating and will be really grounding when you're going through a change. So that is number 5. Number 6, capacity matters more than potential. Just because I could build something from scratch doesn't mean I should. Now, this comes back to kind of knowing yourself again. I am a 1-3 emotional projector in human design. I know that my energy is limited. I know that about myself. And if I'm not really, really careful with my energy, I end up burning out. So a pivot is a key place where people end up burning out. It's a key place where performers end up burning out, because a pivot requires a massive amount of energy. A lot of it kind of invisible energy. So not changing everything in your business and managing your energy and slowing down is so critical during a pivot. I must have said slow down 50 times already, if not 100 times already. So you need to be getting that message of key is slowing down. I know you're excited. I know it feels like, oh my God, I need to get myself back out there again. Oh my God, I confuse my audience. All the things, you're going to feel all of the things. And yes, some of those things will happen. Your audience does feel a bit confused. They may feel like, oh my God, she's changing. I don't know if that's for me anymore. And that's fine. You will have people in your audience who feel you've changed and they don't want to follow you anymore. And that's okay. But you'll also have people who will be moving with you, who have seen that evolution in their own business and they're ready for the next step with you. So keep that in mind. Keep it in mind that capacity matters more than potential. You're in this for the long term. It is a marathon, not a sprint. Guard your energy. And really, I think the important thing there is to go back inward again. Everyone is different. Maybe you're a generator, maybe you're a manifester, maybe you are a very high energy person. A strategy that works for me will feel really slow for you. A strategy that works for you will be so exhausting for me that I'll end up burning out. So we have to understand that our energies are different, we are different, and that different things work for us. And that all of the answers are inside of us. We don't have to go outward for the answers. We just have to slow down, regulate, and listen to the answers that are within us, that we know work for us. Okay, number 7, my final thought on things that will help you in a pivot. The right pivot brings relief before confidence. When you get to a point in the pivot where you're starting to see clarity and you realize that, oh, this feels like it, this feels like home, you may still not feel confident about going out there and putting your new message out there, but you know in your heart this is where you want to go. You know that this is where you want your business to be. So when you get a sense of, I can stay here, this feels like home. I've been doing it myself anyways. I've been studying it myself for a long time. You just know in your heart, this is where you need to be. And it's still going to take time to move into that new identity. You're still going to feel shaky as you start putting the new you out there, because people have come to expect you a certain way. And when they, get a different impression of you, maybe they'll go quiet. Lots of people go quiet and they don't say anything. And maybe they're saying things like, this is not for me. And you know that, and you can feel that, especially if you are super sensitive. You will feel this in your audience. And you need to be able to stay the course. You need to be able to stay the course. Now, I would say that the things that will help you during a pivot are going back to any kind of regulation practice that you have, whether that's journaling, whether that is walking in nature, whether it is meditating, whether it is tapping, whether it is all the different things that you can do to regulate, because your nervous system will not feel safe during a pivot. It will not feel safe. And if you are to get through this, if you are to come out the other side and start doing the work that your soul desires, because that is what a pivot is really. We're pivoting because our soul is looking for something else. It's looking for something greater. It wants to express itself in a different way in the world. That is really what a pivot is. So I am going to leave those 7 points with you here. And if you have any questions, you can pop me a DM, you can pop me a message, and I will get back to you with that. Other than that, thank you so much for showing up. It feels great to be back, and I will leave it there, folks. See you all next time. Take care.